Hey guys, it's Bellamy here from Midnight Suns and welcome back to another Life is Strange video here on the channel. So with the release of Life is Strange Double Exposure upon us, I thought it would be a great time for me to make this video where I'll quickly summarize the entire Life is Strange comic series for those of you who don't have the time to read through a ton of comics before the game comes out. And this way you can be completely prepared for Double Exposure. Now, as a disclaimer, this comic series isn't officially canon to the video games, but they do have many similarities to what we've been seeing from Double Exposure so far. Like, we have multiple people in this comic series having superpowers and Max being able to travel in between alternate timelines. Yeah, that all happens in the comics, so perhaps these comics may actually give us some hints and ideas of what to expect in Double Exposure. So I'm going to be going through the entire Life is Strange sequel comic series. So first we have the self-titled 12-issue series, then we have Partners in Time, then we have Coming Home, and then finally we have Settling Dust. Now bear in mind I won't be covering Life is Strange Forget-Me-Not because this is a sequel to True Colors and it is largely unrelated to Max's story. So yeah, I will only be covering the comics that are a direct sequel to the original Life is Strange game. And without further ado, let's get the video started. Alright, so this comic sequel series picks up 1 year after the events of the first Life is Strange game. And we are in the timeline where Max has decided to sacrifice Arcadia Bay to save Chloe's life at the end of the game. Max and Chloe have been together for the past year, living at Max's parents' house in Seattle, and they have also been working with a local band named The High Seas, with Max doing photography for the band and Chloe designing all the posters for their gigs. Over time, they've grown to become great friends with the band members, and all seems to be going well. But all of that changes when Chloe suddenly disappears during one of the band's pirate-themed concerts. And just as quickly as she disappears, she reappears again, leaving Max in complete confusion with blood dripping down her nose. Although Max hasn't used her power in a year, it seems that Max's powers have activated somehow, and neither she nor Chloe have any idea what exactly happened. But in order to get to the bottom of it, they both decide that they must return to Arcadia Bay. And so they make their return to the town on the 1-year anniversary of the tornado. When the two of them go to the Two Whales diner, Max suddenly has a vision of a timeline where Arcadia Bay was never destroyed, and Dana is happy and alive with a child. Afterwards, they head over to Chloe's house, and Max has yet another vision of an alternate timeline where she finds Joyce grieving over Chloe's death, and she's able to help Chloe say goodbye to Joyce. Sometime later, Max and Chloe decide to visit Blackwell Academy, and it is here that Max has yet another vision of an alternate timeline, and she bumps into the Warren of this timeline. She soon learns from Warren that the Max from this timeline had been working with him to control her new powers. It seems that these visions that Max has been seeing from all the alternate timelines have in fact been real, and Max has been temporarily creating windows connecting alternate timelines, something that they refer to as flickers. Realizing that these uncontrollable flickers have been damaging her physical body, Max decides that she must try to control this new power of hers before it takes over her life. And so she activates her powers and enters the Transact, a world with windows connecting to all the alternate realities that Max can travel to. As she travels through the Transact, she finds herself drawn to a timeline where Chloe is happy. And as she enters this timeline, she realizes that this is a timeline where Rachel Amber never died, and Chloe and Rachel are still together as a happy couple. Now, the story fast forwards 2 years, and we learn that Max has become great friends with both Rachel and Chloe in this alternate timeline. And from this point on, I will be referring to this timeline as the Rachel timeline. So, in this Rachel timeline, Rachel is still an aspiring actress and Chloe has been working as a car mechanic. Max has been struggling as a freelance photographer, and with Amber Price being a couple in this timeline, Max has found herself growing lonely and missing the Chloe from her original timeline for the past 2 years. Throughout the 2 years in this Rachel timeline, Max has been living a normal life without using her powers at all, and she never told Rachel or Chloe about her powers or the original timeline that she came from. By all accounts, the three of them seem to be living completely regular lives, and everything seems to be settling down until one day Max sees a mysterious man in black who literally disappears in front of her eyes, greatly confusing her. Sometime later, Max is out shopping for groceries with Rachel when she spots the disappearing man once again, and this time she chases him down. When she finally confronts him, he is shocked when he realizes that she can see him. But before she can get any answers, he leaves abruptly. But thankfully, she bumps into him again later that night, and he finally decides to tell Max his story. So, we find out that this disappearing man is named Tristan, and we learn that he first activated his powers when he was caught in a drug deal that went bad, which resulted in his friend being shot and killed. We then find out that he has the power to disengage himself from reality, effectively removing himself from the world physically but still being able to observe it almost like a ghost of some sort. After learning about Tristan's past and his powers, Max decides to introduce him to Rachel and Chloe, and they all become quick acquaintances. Later on, the four of them head to a party with Tristan waiting outside. However, things take a turn for the worse when Tristan bumps into the drug dealers who murdered his friend. When Max sees the drug dealers about to kill Tristan as well, she activates her powers and rewinds time, saving his life successfully. Unfortunately, she ends up being attacked by the drug dealers instead. But thankfully, Tristan, Rachel and Chloe soon arrive to save the day. Afterwards, Max finally decides to tell Rachel and Chloe the entire truth about her and Tristan's superpowers and the original timeline that Max came from 2 years ago. Max soon learns that Tristan gained his powers on the exact same day that Max came into this timeline, and perhaps their powers are somehow connected. Soon after, Max sees the Chloe from her original timeline in a dream and promises her that they'll be together again. The next day, we see Rachel rehearsing for her upcoming Hamlet tour, and Chloe is now designing art for the high seas in this Rachel timeline, just as she was doing in the original timeline as well. Chloe is also preparing to follow the high seas around for their live tour dates, and thankfully Rachel's Hamlet performance tour dates and the high seas tour dates seem to match up perfectly, and so Rachel and Chloe get ready to head on the road together. However, they are unsure if Max will be joining them as they know that Max wants to return back to her original timeline. Finally, Max attempts to go back to her original timeline with Tristan's help, and together, the both of them manage to access the Transact world once again. But this time, it looks completely different from before. It is dark and dangerous. As Max tries to return to her original timeline through the Transact, she fails and only Tristan makes it through. Back in the original timeline, we see Chloe react with surprise as Tristan pops into her reality. And from this point on, this is where the story gets much more complicated because we will be following two timelines simultaneously. The original timeline where Max is from, and the Rachel timeline where Max is still stuck in and Rachel is alive. In both timelines, we find out that the Hamlet and High Seas tours are both on the road at the same locations. And so, in the Rachel timeline, we have Max, Chloe and Rachel following the tour. And in the original timeline, you have Chloe and Tristan following the tour as well. Back in the original timeline, Tristan and Chloe have become quick friends over their shared friendship with Max. And they have begun planning how they could possibly pull Max back into this original timeline. Meanwhile, in the Rachel timeline, Max still searches for a way to return to her original timeline. With both groups on the road for the tour in both timelines, they both stop at the western town of Old Tombstone, wherein something miraculous happens as both Chloes in both timelines see a brief glimpse of one another, which convinces Max and Tristan that their chance to connect Max back to her original timeline is coming. Over in the original timeline, Chloe finds out that Victoria Chase is playing the role of Ophelia in the Hamlet tour, the same role that Rachel is playing in the Rachel timeline. Chloe and Victoria quickly reconnect over their joint grieving of the destruction of Arcadia Bay and the loss of their loved ones. And with Victoria becoming a much more mature person now after the events of the original Life is Strange game, they become quick friends. One night after a successful gig, the High Seas get into a road accident when their tour van swerves to avoid a collapsing tree. In the Rachel timeline, Max uses her powers to rewind time and save the band. But this somehow affects the original timeline as well, causing Tristan to be stuck in the original timeline and his powers activated with nobody able to see him. But to his surprise, a band member of the High Seas named Pixie is able to see him clearly. And so, with Pixie's help in the original timeline, Tristan is able to control his powers once again, and we soon find that Pixie herself has a superpower. Ever since she was a kid, she has been able to see visions of alternate timelines branching from alternate possibilities, though she has never had the ability to travel in between them like Tristan and Max. We also soon learn that Chloe herself has a superpower. She is a figurative lighthouse that serves as an anchor point for different timelines. and Max and Tristan have only been able to travel between timelines by focusing on the Chloes from each timeline as targets to navigate to. With this realization, Tristan focuses on the Chloe from the Rachel timeline and immediately travels to that timeline, reuniting with Max and Chloe once again. Now, with the whole gang back together in the Rachel timeline, and with the help of Pixie and her newly revealed abilities, they work together on a plan to send Max back to her original timeline once and for all. And it is during this time that we see Max's powers grow even stronger. She now even has an ability that she refers to as Pocket Time, where she's able to reverse time for just a specific object or area that she controls. Like making a cup of cold coffee return to its original hot temperature from when it was prepared a few hours ago. And with Tristan now being able to travel in between both timelines freely, both groups coordinate and lay out a plan to send Max back to her original timeline when both Chloes are at the Florida Festival, where the Hamlet and High Seas tour is headed. Fast forward to the day of the festival, and something unexpected happens. A massive tornado begins to head straight for the festival. Taking this as a sign, Max decides that she must save both timelines from the tornado and return back to her original timeline with her newly strengthened powers. With all 4 superpowered heroes gathered in front of the tornado, Max uses her Pocket Time ability to rewind the tornado out of existence. And Tristan uses his reality traveling powers to enable Max to affect the tornadoes in both timelines. And with Max and Tristan both being in full control of their powers right now, they successfully rewind the tornado in both realities and enter the Transact once again. Back in the Transact, it looks exactly like how Max first saw it. And there are an infinite amount of timelines for Max to travel to, but she already knows the exact one that she's headed for, her original timeline where Chloe is waiting for her. Tristan follows along, and Max finally reunites with Chloe after 2 years of being apart. And so, the Florida Festival is a smashing success, and Rachel and Chloe are left happily ever after in the Rachel timeline. Meanwhile, we follow Max and her Chloe in the original timeline as they continue their journey forward. Max and Chloe head back to Arcadia Bay, and we soon find out that Chloe has been hard at work rebuilding the entire town in the 2 years that Max has disappeared. She successfully rebuilt the Two Wheels diner and even has Alyssa working shifts. And it is over here that Max and Alyssa have a nice little reunion. Chloe then brings Max to her apartment, and Max happily adds her name to the front door. Some time passes, and we now see that Chloe has long green hair. Max's hairstyle has changed as well, and the both of them look much closer to what we saw with their Life is Strange 2 appearances. Tristan is also doing well now, and he is happily dating Lawrence, who was part of the Hamlet tour. Later on, Max and Chloe meet up with Victoria at her new art gallery in Arcadia Bay, and Victoria offers Max an area in the gallery to exhibit her photos, to which Max agrees. When Max and Chloe return to their apartment, they go through Max's old photos to find some to put up for the exhibition. And to their surprise, they find photos from the Rachel timeline. Unbeknownst to them, Rachel and Chloe from the Rachel timeline had tasked Tristan with smuggling back a set of photos for Max to remember them by. Upon seeing the photos, Chloe breaks out in happy tears as she sees Rachel alive and living a happy life with her in the other timeline. After that, we head to the opening ceremony of Victoria's art gallery, and we see everybody gathered at a nearby bar. Chloe then asks Max if she would ever like to take a road trip to visit David Madsen, and Max agrees. Victoria then calls Max up to the stage to give a speech, and Max tells everybody that she's not gonna run away anymore, and she's learned the importance of salvaging a wreckage and turning it into something beautiful, like what Arcadia Bay has become, and she will make all the sacrifices count. Finally, the series ends as we see all the residents of Arcadia Bay walk in a candlelit vigil as they commemorate the anniversary of the storm. And yeah, that is officially the end of the Life is Strange comic sequel series. What do you guys think about this whole adventure that Max went through? Please go down to the comments below and let's have a discussion. And also, do bear in mind that this is just a quick summary, and there are a lot of little side plots in the comics that I did not cover in this video. So I still highly recommend picking up the comics and reading the entire story if you want to get the full picture. I really enjoyed the comics, and yeah, they are 100% worth the money. And with that being said, if you're interested in more Life is Strange content, do subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with everything going on here on the Midnight Suns channel. Thanks again for watching, and as always, stay gold and never fade, Shakabra.